books and trying to figure out how to put together a training plan, and I saw the run experience and I signed up, and it was great. It's perfect.
We're back. Hello, guys. Sorry for being a few minutes late. Last week we were 5 minutes early, so I feel like we've evened it out, and our karma is... But I will have you know that not only are we coming at you for a full hour this week, but we are facing TRE HQ without our air purifier on, which is a real concern because it is. If we look out the window right now, it looks like it's dusk because we've been facing California fires, and we just want to send our thoughts out to everybody who is facing it in a more serious way than we are. But it's pretty smoky out here.
It's really bad.
Are you fixing
I'm just adjusting our little things here just to make sure we're all good to go.
I think we need it to be a little bit brighter.
Do you want to be a little brighter?
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure. Are we in focus? I can't tell. I feel like my eyes are not as good as they used to.
It might be the smoke. Or your old age.
It might be the smoke. Oh my goodness.
We have Mike Wardian on today, and we just talked to him a couple minutes earlier. He is waiting to jump on. If you guys have, you probably already know who Mike Wardian is, but if you have not looked at his rap sheet, it is impressive, which we will be talking through, and that's me in a close-up, in case you're wondering what that is.
Oh, they see the close-up that way?
Yeah, that's...
this is so good. Well, we're just doing a little focus for you guys, just to make sure we're all good to go.
That's what that looks like.
How's this look?
I don't know, all I can see is my bottom corner of my face.
Don't mind me, guys. Don't mind me at all.
All right. Is that as bright as we can get it? All right. There's no lighting here as we normally
I know. Let's
have.
get this guy a little brighter.
There we go.
There we go.
That's all right.
Better.
So we have our smoothies. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for that close up of my face.
You know, actually, he's not freshly shaved. Sometimes you do shave before the show.
Yeah, I was running a little bit late
today. We've got just like a nice
but we have the essentials.
We do.
So first of all, let's say hi to everybody. We have I got some new names in here.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Salisbury, you're in focus. Thank you. Good to see you there, Troy. Kelly Olson, Rizzy, Yvonne.
Got them all.
Jenny
Kinsey,
morning from
what's going
Auckland.
on?
Guys, next week at this time, I will be in Cape Town. I still have not figured out whether there's a race there that following weekend, but I will. I'll check that out.
Are you planning on doing an event down there?
I wouldn't say I'm planning on it, but if it happens across me and
you'd be okay with it?
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah,
I've been running a little bit, so
I think that's good. The smoke out here, guys, is harsh. I know it's making a lot of us a little stir crazy out here. It's sad. There's a lot of events were canceled this weekend.
Yeah.
Is
North Face still going on?
North Face is canceled,
and
the Berkeley half is canceled as well.
Oh,
but
man.
the North Face did some things that were pretty classy.
Okay.
They canceled the race.
Yep.
They told everyone who was there that they could defer their entry to next year or to one of the North Face races all over the country next year.
Okay.
In addition, I think they were giving the ability to sign a friend up for a race for like 30% off or something.
Oh, wow.
And they're donating the entire $30,000 prize purse to the Campfire
Recreation Relief. Oh,
they're
that's
donating
awesome.
all the food and the water to the fire department and rescue teams and all the food. So it's like, let's turn this into a slight positive and put all this support where it really needs to happen.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for the athletes, a lot of people, but in light of what's happening now and the number of people that are facing a much more serious situation, it makes a lot of sense. It is pretty bad here. So you and I take different stances on this. This happened last year around the same time during our training, if you remember. And because Nate was coaching the trail program at that point, you had to make the decision to not run and be the responsible leader. I am not a responsible leader. And so I went out and ran anyhow. And similarly, this week, it's been kind of nice. I have the park all to myself in the morning.
It's crazy, right?
Literally no runners out. And
know.
then people look at me and they like kind of scowl through their masks.
They're like, what are you doing?
Who's this guy?
I feel like this is what pregnant women must feel like if they're drinking a glass of wine.
You'll never know. You'll never know. I feel...
I imagine there's a lot of Strava shaming right now. Like, people are looking at Strava and they're like, you idiot, what are you doing out there?
My personal feeling on this is that I've spent years of my life in countries where this is very normal.
I know.
They call it the Asian brown cloud, where in all over Asia, including India, it looks like this for a good part of the year, and it is actually from the burning. People burn trash, and there's so many poor people that are burning trash that.
I know. I'm having fun here.
Yeah, there you go.
That it's just always gross. Yeah.
That it's bad, and during a certain part of the year, you can actually see it from space. How bad the cloud is, and it comes in every afternoon. Anyhow, so this is a. We're really spoiled out here in California.
Yeah.
Like we always have this fresh air, and I always feel this time. Like especially in the winter, like I'm just a happier human being out here, and I think it's one of the reasons why I like this. Like I would in New England, and props to all of you guys who are still slanging it out there. But it's like you're inside so much.
Yeah.
Like you just don't get that sunshine, that vitamin D, and it has an effect, And I just feel like out here we do have the ability to get sun for the most part around, and just in the winters I'm generally happier. We've got outside space. I don't ever feel like, do you ever feel cabin fever here?
No.
Yeah. Except for now. So we're getting a little dose of the cabin fever right now.
Yeah, I mean it is very weird. Like you guys can't see outside. Maybe you can tell from the lighting, but like when we look outside right now, it kind of feels like it's 6 p.m. just all the time.
Yeah,
from the morning to the evening, it feels like, and you can look like directly at the sun if you wanted. Which is the same thing that happens often. When I was in China, it was like that. When I'm in India, it's like that. Different times in Brazil as well. So yeah.
So guys, we have a really fantastic guest today. Mike Wardian is a professional runner for Hoka. I don't know if you could put him into a category. Like it would be too limiting to say, oh, he's just a dude who runs marathons, or just a guy who's just an ultra runner, because he's done all of those things and more. Like, what were some of the things on his rap sheet that stood out to you?
The 2:31 average for all the world major marathons.
Yeah, so in one year,
Tokyo, London, New York, Chicago, Boston.
Yeah.
I think that's all of them.
Incredible.
I missed one. Yeah, just insane. And then he did 7 marathons in 7 days.
I want to talk to him about that. I'm still not happy with this camera, so I'm just adjusting a little. Sorry guys, I just feel like I'm in a tinker. I feel like I'm you right now, where I am tinkering, and you in your head are like, why is this dude still tinkering with stuff?
Oh, is that what you think all the time? It's good. I appreciate you telling me that. Yeah.
Oh my god. But the 7 marathons in 7 continents, 7 days, he averaged just under 2:46 pace, which is absurd.
It's kind of like he's like the evolution of Dean Karnazes, except for Dean was never nearly as fast as Mike is.
But 7 times, I can't do the math, guys, on the fly.
7
times
26.2.
26.2 is 183 miles in a week.
At 2:45 pace.
At 2:45 pace.
And then, this is the kicker, is that at the end of it, he went and ran another 17 miles
so
after
we
the
could
last
get
marathon.
up to 200.
So he could hit 200 miles, which is insane.
Which is so crazy. Yeah. And and one of the things I want to dig into it when we get in is like I don't know if you guys have ever done a major marathon. Like I remember racing Boston and getting on a plane the next day.
Yep.
It was the most miserable experience. I couldn't sit still. My hamstrings, my low back ached.
Yep.
I just could not imagine doing a race, immediately traveling, doing it again. I don't know how you recover from that.
It is really a physical feat that I think it's hard to imagine. It's not something that I feel like I can extrapolate from my experience and be like, oh, I've run, 30 miles here, or I've run 15 miles here, and what would it be like to triple that? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. The other crazy things he's done is he has set marathon world records in it was a Spider-Man costume or an Elvis suit.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy's just down to party. One of the things he also did last year for you trail runners out there was that he raced Leadville 100, which is at 10,000 feet, guys, which is just absurd because we're at ocean level.
And he doesn't actually have elevation training.
He doesn't have ocean level. So he's South Carolina,
He lives in
California.
Virginia,
He goes to ocean.
He's from Virginia, or is he
Does he
I
live
think
here?
it might be DC.
Okay.
He's out there.
We'll ask him.
But he's like ocean level. Like, and we go up to Tahoe every once in a while. And we're like, okay, that's high. That's like 5,000 to 6,000 feet. That's like going to Tahoe, the air's thin, and then going up to Tahoe again. Right? Like, that's how
Again, not a
is.
linear thing. I mean, it gets way worse.
It gets way worse. Yeah. And then the next day, again, once he did this 100-mile race, placed 10th, he goes and he races like an absurdly punishing thing, the Pikes Peak.
And it was his first
marathon.
14er. It was the first time he'd been. I think that's what he said.
Right, which is like a road race, and it's just half marathon straight up, half marathon straight down, like just brutal.
Yeah.
But should we get this dude on?
Let's do it. Is it? It is 12:15. I told him I call it 12:15. As always, we're gonna just stick with this here as we go through the. I swear, I'm gonna figure out a different system for this eventually. But we want you guys to be able to hear him. And this is what we figured out so far. Here we go.
So we give him a call.
There we go.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
Mike, we're getting you on and your video and everything.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Can you see me okay?
We can see you, yeah.
I can.
You're a little dark. If you can pivot so the light is in front of you, that would be amazing.
Let's see.
We got to see the man's face.
That
was a little
any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Cool.
That's great. Yeah.
All right.
So, Nate and I were just talking about your rap sheet. We have people in the comments already talking about the things. Actually, Tone says, I recommend everybody share the short video from Hoka One One about Washington, D.C. Mike Wardian is in it and really engage people in Washington, D.C. and North Face. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we just want to make sure, Mike, that our team can hear you. We're all good with sound and everything.
Yeah, I think we're all good with sound.
Perfect.
Can you guys hear me? Michael Wardian.
There you go.
44 years old, Arlington, Virginia. Yeah, I was watching you guys before I got on. So, yeah, cool.
So let's kind of, I mean, I think one of the interesting things that I think you often get asked about, but I still want to dig into it, is the fact that you didn't come from a running background, right? You didn't run in college, you were an athlete, but you were a lacrosse player, and what, you know, there's a, you know, I read about like you doing your first marathon and then, but what went from, hey, I'm going to do marathon to kind of the wacky version of ultra marathoning that you have, you know, where you're just basically taking on endurance challenges? Like, what was that transcendence from, like, oh, I'm going to run to, okay, this is a you know, I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, obsession. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. Yeah, so I started off playing lacrosse. That was like my dream, was to play in college, and I wanted to play Division I, so I went to Michigan State University, and at that point they had a Division I program, and I got to play Division I, so it was pretty awesome. And I decided to pick up running. I wanted to have 1 year of college where I just was a complete, like, I was a frat boy. I just wanted to, like, you know, have a year of just like being a student, and basically I wanted to go on spring break and not go and play lacrosse. And so I decided to turn my attention to running just to kind of stay fit. And then I went to my friend Vince Boyson's house, and his mom had just gotten back from the Boston Marathon. And she was the first person that I'd met that was like a marathon runner that didn't look like Bill Rogers or like, you know, just like a regular person. And I was like, oh my God, if his mom can do a marathon, I could totally do this. Being a very cocky college kid who was, you know, an athlete, I was like, oh, this is no big deal. And so I was like, I'll run the Boston Marathon. Little did I know you actually had to qualify for the Boston Marathon.
Right.
So this was like before the internet. So I sent them like an envelope in the mail and said like, hey, can you send me a brochure? And they sent it back and said like, hey, what's your qualifying time? And I was like, what? No. I want to run your race. But I had just, it was 1996 and I just moved back to DC, and so I ran the Marine Corps Marathon, which is still one of my favorite races. Yeah. I found out what time I had to beat, which was 3 hours and 10 minutes for like a 22-year-old.
Amazing.
And then I ran 3:08 3:06, I guess 3:06.
That's amazing.
And then was like, oh, all the real marathoners run, sub 3 hours. Like, if you want to be a real runner, like according to what people say, like you should run 3 hours. And so I was like, well, I qualified for Boston, and I was like, I'm gonna try to run, sub 3 hours at Boston. I ran 2:54, and I just thought I was the shit. And I had no idea, of course, like that's not like
incredible.
Pro. That's not pro.
You had more though, but I wanna actually back up and touch on his transition from lacrosse player to runner,
right?
Because I don't know if everyone fully appreciates that. Like, I played a little lacrosse in high school. First of all, I was terrified of getting I was terrified of getting beat the snot out of, so that kind of knocked me out of it. But I see this with a lot of college team-based athletes, right? Like, you're always working out in a group.
Yeah.
You have a coach who's yelling at you. Like, lacrosse players are insanely fit.
Right.
You do run a lot,
right,
but the running is so different,
right?
Like, you're doing little sprints here and there. Like, it's not, as normal, at least from my understanding of it, that you're going to go out for like 10-mile runs. So what was that like for you, Mike? Like, just the mindset shift of, being that lacrosse player who's just being told what to do, maybe running was a form of punishment, to then just going out and running, and you're like, hey, this doesn't suck. Because I imagine, like, a lot of your teammates were like, what are you doing? Like, why would you ever go and do that?
Right. No, I mean, I think that's actually a really clever thought. It was something we would actually do in training a couple of times a week, and we'd do like a 5K, which was like, the faster guys would finish it, and then like the defensemen and those guys would kind of like try to cut across the bridges and like, not do the whole thing because they're like, this is stupid. I don't need to do this. But I was always like, I actually loved those runs. And so I didn't have any money in college, and I was like, well, what's the most efficient exercise that I can do that costs the least amount of money? And it turned out, like, for the amount of time that it takes and the amount of workout you get, running was the most efficient way to stay fit. And then the more I did it, the more I liked it. So it was like I went for a 5K run because that's what I knew I could do. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm going to try to run across campus. And that was like 5 miles, which, seemed like forever. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to run all the roads of campus. And so that was like a big 10-mile loop that we did once on bikes. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try to see if I can do that just running. And so I just kept setting these like different challenges for myself. And the more that I did it, the more I liked it. And so that's kind of how I got into it, and kind of why I was like, oh, I'm not actually terrible at this. And then from there, I was like, okay, now I want to try to run a marathon. And I remember actually it was like kind of like a day like today in the East Coast. I heard you talking about New England and how it's like crappy, and like today it like hammered us with like a nor'easter, and so we got sleet and snow, and it was like that at school in Michigan. Like the sun just goes away, and you're talking about like how that just plays on your mood. Like I had to do a 13-mile run, and I did it on a 1/8 of a mile track at one of the gyms. And so that was my first like super long run, and that's when I knew like I had some talent, because I like saw people like playing basketball, and like they finished their game and I was still running, and then my buddy ran for like 5 miles, and then I just kept running, and then I had another buddy jump in. And so like it was one of those things where I was like, I think I had the right mindset for it, and then it was just kind of building up to the actual physicality that it takes to run. And I did it really gradually, so I think that actually helped me a lot. And I think that that's something that's been kind of beneficial in my life now as a professional runner. Is like a lot of the people that I've raced against, like I've been a professional runner for over 20 years now, and it's like a lot of the people that were my contemporaries, have since gone and done other things, like Scott Jurek and Mark Godale, and like Rich Hanna, who's actually out your way. Like there's so many guys that have been in the sport, and they're still in the sport doing amazing things, but kind of not at the same level and a lot of people have come and gone into the sport. Like there was like Jeff Rose, who was in the sport for a while, and Anton and those kind of guys. Yeah. And it's been really cool to just be a part of that. And then also like different marathoners like Keith Dowling and Alan Culpepper and those guys. So like since I like kind of straddle a bunch of different worlds, I get to see people in a lot of different disciplines within the sport. Yeah. And so it's been a really cool progression and something that I've been really excited about.
Yeah, I think one of the ironies that from your story, I think, is that you started marathoning because you're like, hey, this is like a regular person does a marathon, and you're no longer a regular person at all.
Right. But it's been actually amazing because a lot of the people, like, you know, I spent you guys were talking about the 7 marathons thing I did. Like one of my idols was like Ryan Hall, and like I get to see his transition from like one of the top marathoners to a guy who can like pick up a truck now, you know, and like
right. Yeah, he's gotten very, very strong.
Right, but like it was so cool to like I ran with him in his first Olympic trials in New York City, and I like led that race for like 10K, and then I actually thought I was like going to the Olympics. Like it was so silly, and then like, you know, 100 dudes passed me at like 10K, and it was like, but just to get to kind of see that progression with people in the sport.
Yeah, and just to give you guys context on Ryan Hall, I remember seeing this little Instagram video he posted up probably sometime this year, where he was working on deadlifting, and I think he deadlifted like 405 or something absurd, and it's just crazy strong, something that's like 2 or 3x your body weight. And like when I'm working with like, you know, elite runners, like when they're really competing in their time, like 100 pounds to them feels really heavy. Yeah. Like if I can get them lifting triple digits, it's like a total victory.
Hey, can you guys tell my trainer Jesse that? Because he's been making me feel like a fool with like 10-pound weights. So like,
Oh man. I know. That's so funny.
I'd love to hear more about like the idea of kind of getting there slowly. Like you talked about how you know, as a runner, you've kind of progressed in, you know, doing like sub 3 for your second marathon and 3:06 for your first is definitely no slouch. But the progression towards the type of running that you do now, when you say you got there slowly, what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think that's actually exactly how it happened for me. Like, and I think one of the neat things is like I started out just like everyone else, you know, like not an elite runner. So like the guys that I'm competing against now, most of them like were like, you know, really, really incredible college athletes, or at least ran in college, or like cross country. I mean, some of the guys, like there's a couple guys that actually are lacrosse players. I give a shout out to Dylan Bowman for sure, like one of the boys out your way, but like he played lacrosse. And then, you know, there's a couple other guys. For me, like it was like a pretty, you were saying like, how did I get into the ultras? It actually started out pretty quick. So like I did in 1996, I did Marine Corps. And then in 1997, I did Boston. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to do all the big marathons in the same year, and then I'll just be done with this and I'll go do something else. And so I did Chicago, Marine Corps, New York, and I was like, okay, I'm knocking out all the big city races. And people were like, that's crazy, you know, you're gonna get hurt, you can't do that. And I found out really quickly that I actually like got better as it went along, and I felt stronger. And then it was so crazy, like, so I ran like 254, 245, 242 or something. But each one awesome. I felt stronger than the last. And then someone told me about a 50 miler, and I was just like, that's not true. Like, you can't run this.
Hey guys, this is early days for ultra, right? This is not the prevalence of ultra training. This was like pre-YouTube. Yeah. You couldn't look up like how to train for an ultra. So Mike, we're getting a lot of questions of like how you train for these things, both for the marathon and the ultra. It'd be fun to see like what resources you used. How did you get down from a 305 to a 245?
Well, I mean, I basically, I went into the local running store. It's a store that's still around. My friend, it's actually funny, his name's Chris Farley, but he owns the Pacers running stores here in the DC area. And I walked in and I was like, hey, I just ran 2:54, and they're like, sweet, dude. And I was like, no, I'm really fast. And they're like, yeah, whatever. But you can come to our track workouts. And so basically that's what I did. I just showed up. It's kind of like just showing up, and then each week I got I started out in the slow group and then went to the medium group, and then all of a sudden I'm in the quicker group, and then all of a sudden I'm leading the quicker group, and then it's one of those things where I think the cool thing about running is it doesn't care who you are or where you came from. Like, if you're willing to put the time and effort in, and you're willing to be consistent about it, you get the results. So there's no draft capital or recency bias, or like, if you are dedicated and committed, then you're going to get the results. And if you can stay healthy, I mean, I think that's the other thing, and that's something that I've been really lucky with, is being able to stay consistent. And so that's basically what I did, is I just trained for marathon training. And then when I heard about this ultra, I was like, at that point I was maybe like a mid 2:30s guy, and I was like, how fast do they win that race in? And it was the JFK 50 miler, which is actually going on this weekend. So they told me like the winning time's like a little over 6 hours, and I was like, well, I just I multiplied my time by 2, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna win. Like, I was like, I'm signing up for that. like that's just simple math. And of course, anyone who's ever done an ultra will tell you that just because you've run a fast marathon does not mean you're gonna run a fast ultra. So about 30 miles, when I realized that I wasn't gonna win, and like these guys that were doing like the Jeff Galloway and walk running past me, like, I was standing still, and I refused to walk because I'm not a runner. I'm a runner, not a walker. Right. Even though if you're hiking up a hill and you're not going faster than you are when you're running. So I learned very quickly that my ego was way out of check, and I got put back in place very fast, and it was awesome. And I finished, and I was nowhere close to the lead, and I was humbled and didn't do another 50 for a very long time. But
that's amazing. Incredible.
But it was cool. It was a way to kind of get exposure to it, and then eventually I went back and won it about 10 years after that. So like, it's one of those things.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was super cool. But I mean, like, I guess for the training part of it though, is like, a lot of times I do my training that kind of builds on itself, and so I use the marathon training, and for a 50 miler, I feel like it's mostly, if you can do a pretty quick marathon, you'll be able to hang for a 50 miler, and it comes down to more fueling than it is anything about the training, because the runs are long enough that you can use what you're doing for a marathon and kind of extrapolate that out to a long race. It's just being able to fuel, and I think that's where, at least for me when I was first starting, is the hardest part, is like being able to take
out the nutrition.
Figuring out the nutrition. And I think you see that a lot with like road guys that are transitioning to trails, especially longer stuff, is like, it's not the physicality of the event and the distance, it's more about how do I not blow up, and then once they get that figured out, like, it's pretty incredible.
So should we tell these guys about the giveaway?
Oh my gosh, I just saw you. I didn't realize we were giving away a Hoka pair. Of course, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
That is amazing. First of all, thank you for that, Mike. And then second of all, guys.
Thanks, Hoka.
Thank you, Hoka.
And the team, thank you very much, guys.
But the deal is, and guys, this is very cool. A lot of times when we do these things, it's like a very specific shoe. And Hoka's like, meh, carte blanche, whatever you want. Like, so hit the link in the description of this video, enter the giveaway, and you not only get to choose the size, the color, the Hoka shoe that you want, but you also get a pretty bitchin' Go Mike Wardian trucker hat.
Love it.
Which is really cool. So Mike, thanks for throwing that in. Do you have any favorite Hoka shoes? Like, what are your go-to road and
trail?
trail?
Go Mike Wardian hats too? We get one. We get some too, right?
I can make that happen. Yeah.
We gotta do it.
This guy has a hat on at all times unless I make him take it off, which I do for the live show. So
Yeah,
that's some good advertising.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. And well, usually I do too. But if you put it on with the camera, you can't see their eyes. You look very mysterious.
So I would love to.
I totally hook you guys up.
That'd be awesome.
Nothing like my favorite road and
Hoka
trail
shoes.
shoe.
Yeah.
It's actually cool because we have a lot of shoes that work really well for me. I think for most trail races, especially the longer one, it's the Mafati Speed 2. Like I feel like that shoe is like unbelievably well designed for my foot. It just kind of like fits almost like Cinderella perfect. It's got nice grip, incredible cushion. Like I can run a short race in it. I ran like the C&O Canal, which was like 300 kilometers, like a little over 185 miles, like at least 100 miles of that in that shoe. And no issues. Like it just rides really, really well and treats me good.
That's awesome.
For marathons and below, it's usually the Tracer if I'm racing. And then like everyday trainer, I spend a lot of time in the Bondi, which is like one of the originals. They're up to like Bondi 6 now, but it's cool. Like still like one of my favorites. And then of course there's like the Clifton, the Mach, the Kabu. All those are nice. Like I do a lot of weight training in the Kabu just because it's just so lightweight and pliable and lets me do a lot of dynamic stuff. And especially when Jesse's like making me do like planks and stuff. Or he makes me pick my feet up. I'd rather have like the lightest shoe on, like when he's like do like Pilates stuff, like snow angels and crap, and I'm just like, oh, can I just have the lightest thing on possible? So, and then I got to run in these carbon rockets that are pretty awesome. So it's kind of similar to some of the other companies that have come out with like a carbon racing flat, and those things I used in New York like a week ago, and I got to get a couple more miles in them, but I think those might be my newest love.
That's great.
I love it. So we have a question. First of all, there's a couple of those Hoka shoes that I've not tried out that I'm definitely gonna have to grab a pair of. The question that coming from Victoria is your favorite recovery meal, which brings me to my question, which I'd love to hear what that is. But when we called Mike earlier, he was just digging into
chowing down
a full bowl of, it looked like a full bowl of broccoli with some sauce on it, but he described it. What is it called again? It's a what meal? I'm lucky. Like I don't know if you guys saw a couple of weeks ago, I won the Gillette Stadium Marathon in where the Patriots play. Okay.
And somehow I got.
Of course you did.
Yeah. No, it was. Well, last year I won the marathon in Fenway Park, which was really cool because I have this like sick jersey. So when they won the pennant or the World Series like a couple of weeks ago, I was able to rock this awesome like custom, Red Sox jersey. But no, I was eating like a TB12 performance meal. So it's like plant-based conjunction with like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Purple Carrot. It's like an online delivery service.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like a higher protein. So it was like a broccoli Thai salad with like mung beans, roasted broccoli. And I never really had mung beans before, but they were delicious.
Yeah.
Cucumber and then some basil. And then they had these like spicy peppers that I'm not like a super spicy guy, but I think if you wanted to kick up the flavor, I kind of made it like gringo. So like I think if you wanted to make it a little bit spicier, you could add the peppers.
So is your diet, I mean, is it mostly plant-based, or is it just that you happen to be eating a plant-based meal at that point?
No, it's mostly plant-based. So I've been like vegetarian since the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like a really long time. And then I've moved all the way to vegan, and now I've come back to like I eat eggs and honey. Those are the only two animal products that I eat. So I'm not vegan, but mostly plant-based.
Gotcha.
What pulled you back into like eggs and honey? What was if you don't mind sharing?
No, not at all. I mean, I just I'd gone all the way to vegan, and I just found that I wasn't getting what I needed, and like especially with as much racing as I'm doing, like I wanted to, and it's not so much the protein and stuff from the eggs, but the convenience of travel. Like because I'm also traveling so much, like I've done 46 races this year and like been all over the world, and sometimes it's hard to find mung beans or butter
Right.
beans, or like even like I have a really cool almond butter sponsor called Big Spoon Roasters, but like
I love Big Spoon.
Those guys are
oh,
good.
yeah, they're so rad. So anyhow, like sometimes it's hard to like bring all that with you, and so like eggs give me a good protein source that I can find basically anywhere on the planet. And then honey is just one of those things where it's really portable. It doesn't really ever go bad, and it is something that I enjoy.
Wait, so how many eggs are you consuming on like a weekly basis?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, it depends on like if sometimes like maybe 12, I'd say, but
that's not that many.
Weird. Well, it's weird too because most of the time I don't eat the yolk. So my dog gets the yolk, Rosie. So it's like mostly just egg whites. And I used to never eat the yolk, but then actually I saw you had Devin on, but one time she called me out on it. Like I was at her restaurant and she was like, "Why do you just want the egg white?" And I was like, "I don't know. That's just what I eat." And she's like, "You're dumb." And I was like,
she would say that.
Yeah. She's like, "That's dumb." And I was like, huh. So like every now and then I have the yolk, but like most of the time it's just the egg white.
Oh man!
What I'm wondering, like, with the number of miles that you're putting in, and you have a mostly plant-based diet with only egg yolks, like how you must be consuming just in terms of volume of food must be quite large.
It's actually I've had it
because you're not a small guy either. You're 6'3"?
No. Some people think that for some reason. I'm just 6 foot, and I'm between like 138 and 144. So like.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Depends on how many eggs he eats. How many egg yolks?
Well, or it depends on like if I've done like Marathon des Sables or something, I'm like 130. But if I'm getting ready for like a longer race, I'll try to pack on a little extra weight.
Gotcha.
And then also like I've been working out with my trainer the last maybe like year and a half or two, and I've just been getting a little more like upper body strength, and so that's added a little bit of weight.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Carrie is asking, what is your go-to cross-training sport? GD Kim House is asking about recovering between races that are like 3 to 4 weeks apart. She's planning on doing a couple marathons, next year. But you've kind of referenced your...
Man. 3 or 4
What's that?
weeks? That's
3 to 4 weeks apart.
Yeah, I know. I said that's like luxurious. Usually,
Easy. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's plenty of time. Actually, that works really well. You can kind of be completely recovered from one and just use that fitness that you've built from the first one and take it right into the next one.
Yeah. So what do you do in between races? And then I'm curious, like obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but the run experience, we value, making runners athletes, making sure that they are strong, they move really well, and that their running is a function of their overall athletic ability and self.
Right.
And so it sounds like, obviously, given your background and the various running challenges, you haven't put yourself into any box. And lately, that you've been working with a strength trainer. Like, what's that experience been like, and how has that affected your recovery in between races?
Actually, that's a great question. It's humbling for sure. Like to go from being like really, really proficient in something like running, and then trying to touch my toes and feeling like a complete, noob is unbelievable. And I remember we were actually at the San Francisco Marathon this year, and you had everyone try to like do a squat, and like all the runners were like, "Wait a second, no."
That's right.
And I had to do that yesterday in my thing, and I was like falling down, and like, someday I want to be like those guys you see like in the Far East that can like hover over the ground like with their heels still on the ground and not on their tippy toes, but I think it was really humbling at first and really eye-opening, like because you're really efficient at going forward, and I had lost a lot of my proficiency and ability to kind of maneuver side to side, and especially lost a lot of strength in that department. And then it's like the typical stuff every time you go to a PT where they like make you stand on one leg and show you how like unbelievably terrible your hips are and your knees don't bend properly, and like so like all those little things that can impact your running, especially like I'm not just doing like track running or treadmill running, but I'm doing, I'm toggling between super technical gnarly trails and roads. And so like the ability to kind of be strong as an athlete, strong all the way around, because even like having upper body strength, I think is important because you can hold your form, but also like sometimes like I'm in a race where I have like a lot of mandatory kit that you're carrying. So you're carrying quite a bit of weight on your upper body. And if you're not strong, like that's going to impact you later in the race. And even at the beginning of the race, you're not going to be able to be as efficient as you could be. So like, and then I think you were asking like, how did that affect my recovery? Like, I think at first we had to kind of figure it out because it was almost like running. I had to get those muscles that aren't or weren't as strong. So like, especially like my core and hips, like I had in 2012, I had 5 hernias and 5 stress fractures of my pelvis.
Were those like sequential? Did they all happen at once? Was it like one incident where all that occurred, or was it like I got something in February and then April and then May and then July?
No, well, it probably was, but then eventually in August of that year, I just couldn't run. Like I was doing like a half marathon. It was probably like my 40th race of the year, and I just went out and I was like halfway through the race, like I just like felt like someone was stabbing me in my back. And then I had UTMB, the big race around Mont Blanc the week after, and I thought like maybe I pulled something in my hip. And so I went to my masseuse, this guy Terrell Hale in Georgetown Sports Massage, and he was like, I was like, Terrell, whatever it is, just dig in there. And so like it was like blackout pain, and he was like pushing on it. And then like I got like 2 sessions like that, and I was like, something's really wrong. And then I went and got an X-ray, and it was kind of like we can't really see. And then I got like an MRI, and then they were able to see all the stress fractures.
Where are the hernias from?
Well, the hernias were from running also. So like it was just because like I had the pain in my hips, and I think I was just pushing my body forward, and then it tore all the front out of my. So like I was coming back from all like I had been super cautious since coming back from that, and so like I had to get over that as I started working with Jesse. And then it was also like we had to kind of figure out, like, since I raced so much, like how hard to go on, Monday and Wednesday, because like I was getting to the end of like, marathons and stuff, and I had no power in my hips because I'd gone so hard during the week. And so like, it just took a while for my body to catch up with the movements and everything. And you probably see that in what you do. It's like, it's just like anything, right? Like lifting kind of stinks the first 6 weeks until you figure it out and your body adjusts. And like running, like we all think like, oh my gosh, like is it even worth putting your shoes on to go out 5 miles? But I remember when I first started, 5 miles was like what it feels like for me to go like 50 or 100 now, right? Like it's
I still feel 5 miles is pretty good.
But you know what I mean? It's like your body has to catch up with what you're doing, and then it takes some time to like rebuild everything. So like I finally feel like I've come around on like being able to recover from those workouts. And then when you add on top of that you're still doing your normal volume of running on top of that, so it's like your body's getting a bigger load and just kind of has to take up that extra capacity.
So I wanted to ask a little bit about, the title of this video is like how to race a lot. You certainly race probably more than, if there are people who race more than you, I want to meet them. Yeah. But there are probably not that many out there. You're a pro runner. You've had a very long career. I know that for really any runner, a huge part of having a long career, of being successful at the events you care about, means being strategic in the races that you choose. How do you choose the races that you choose, and really why do you choose so many? And do you feel like what's your kind of motivation there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think I try to do things that excite me and interest me and hopefully scare me. So like, there's like races like Hard Rock where you're never sure what you're gonna get. There's like an event like I did on Great Cranberry Island. I did a 100-miler in August that was on a 2-mile stretch of road. So
up in Maine, small little island up in Maine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
That's incredible.
Off Bar Harbor. It was this guy Gary Allen. He's just a super dude, and it's his hometown. And it's seriously like a 2-mile stretch of road we ran 50 times, and I was like, I just don't know if mentally I could do that. And so I was like, hell yeah, I want to go try that. That seems awesome. And I set my 100-mile PR. So like, it's like one of those things. And then 2 weeks after that, I was like, I've always wanted to do like the C&O Canal, like by my house. It's 300 kilometers, about like 184.5 miles. And I thought, wow, I have the fitness. Why don't I try this? And I did. And I ended up breaking a record from the 70s, like 1976. I broke a record by 12 minutes. Like something like that was like, why do that? Like, that seems like it would be super boring because it's just you start in one place and you run straight and there's a river on your right the entire time. And like, but
did you know in the beginning of the year that you were going to do those two events, or do you sort of feel it out when, and you seem to obviously be like opportunistic in a good way, like you see things come your way and you're like, oh, that's great, I will totally do that.
Yeah, and I think that's still what I try to do. Like, there's a couple of races where, like, I've done the Boston Marathon like 16 times, and like, and I feel like that's kind of almost like a pilgrimage for me every year to like kind of pay homage to like my start in the sport. But other than that, like, I'm pretty open to anything, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty fortunate at this point in my career where I get like these awesome invitations almost every day in my inbox to go do something rad, and I just don't want to miss anything, man, because who knows? Like, I mean, especially when I got hurt and I didn't know if I'd ever run again. I was 37, wasn't sure if like my sponsors were gonna want to keep sponsoring a guy that had 5 stress fractures and 5 hernias, and was older, and so I don't want to miss anything. And the sad thing is, and you see it like even this weekend, like you could have spent your whole year preparing for the North Face race. Right. And
we both raced it last year. I mean, if this was last year, we would have been crushed right now. It would have been hard.
Right. But I mean, like, that stuff happens all the time. And so like, I'm fortunate that my body allows me to do these things. And so, I want to take advantage of that for as long as I can. And so like, the opportunity came to run the San Francisco Marathon. It was a week after Hard Rock, and I was like, yeah, I'll totally do that, and see how it goes. And like, that's the thing with, like, you were talking about Leadville and Pikes Peak. It was like, I had the chance to run, like, those are both iconic races that I wanted to do. And if I could do them on the same weekend and break a record from the 80s from one of my heroes, like, I'll try and go after Marshall Ulrich's record. So like, those are the type of things. Those are the type of things that I want to take advantage of.
Now, especially it's changing. You started earlier, like as a professional runner. Earlier on, your job really was to just run fast, and just put your head down and do that. And now that's changing a lot. Like, I think a lot of people, for example, look at someone like Galen Rupp, and it's like this incredibly talented runner. But he doesn't make himself that accessible, to everyone. Like, how do you see your role as a professional athlete in terms of being an ambassador to the sport, connecting with the broader audience, and making people not only care about your journey, but just making this a legit profession for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually one of the coolest things that's happened, because like, there are different ways to be valuable to the sport, and then also to the sponsors that are willing to help you do these things. And so, there's and I hope what I'm doing is inspiring people, and that's what I really hope is like someone looks at me and they're like, that dude has a full-time job. Although like some people would argue like, wow, like how does he do that? But like, I'm like, as we're on this call, sometimes you see my screen go out, but I'm getting calls from the office like, hey, what are you doing? But like, like I've got a full-time job. Like we have 2 boys that are 12 and 9. I like, try to go to the soccer practices and swim practice and like, make them part of the journey with me. And so they've been to 18 countries all around the world and,
that's cool.
Got to explore the world through the sport. And, but
you don't sleep much.
I do not sleep a lot, but that's actually something I'm working on. So like, there's always something that you can be better at. And so someday I want my poller to say not less than, what does it usually say? It says, less than optimal amount of sleep of poor quality, and someday I want it to be like, you killed it. Like that's all I want it to say is like you killed it. Like that is what I'm hoping for. So.
Oh my God, that is craziness.
But like I think there's lots of ways to be valuable, and I think like or at least what I see my role as is like. There's only ever one person that wins the race, right? So like there's only one winner. Like in all the races we do, no matter how great a day you have, there's only going to be one person that wins out of, if it's Western States, 400 people. If it's the New York City Marathon, it's 50,000 people. But if you can be, and this year I've done some cool things. Like I guided a visually impaired athlete, this guy Chaz Davis, who's trying to break 2:30 in the marathon. I guided a double amputee, Brian Reynolds, who was trying to set a world record and be the first double amputee to run 3 hours. And like, if you can use your fitness to do that, I raised money for charity through the Gillette Stadium Marathon. Like we raised over, I think like $100,000 or more, like as for homelessness. But also like I've set, personal bests. And I think that's what it really comes down to is like, I want to continue to evolve as an athlete. And so like, I'm looking like the fastest known time, I'm looking at doing another fastest known time on the Israeli National Trail next year and trying to like, it's about 1,100 kilometers. It runs the entire length of Israel, but like kind of exploring different cultures and hopefully inspiring people to like, I'll be able to set a benchmark and then, someone else can come along and kind of up the ante. So like those are the types of things like, hopefully people find exciting. And then, you said like I've set world records dressed as Elvis. Like I won the Las Vegas Marathon as Elvis. Like
that's cool.
No, I mean, if there's any race that you want to do as Elvis, I would highly recommend the
that's a good one, right? That's a good one to do.
Like I think there was like 300 Elvises there, but like, I pushed my kids in a jog stroller and I think basically what I'd like to continue to do as an athlete is inspire people to do more than they think they can, continue to push what they think are their perceived limits and kind of hopefully they find those limits. And sometimes you step over those limits for sure. Like there's times where, you bite off more than you can chew, but that's one of those opportunities where it's like, I feel like you can gain so much more from failure than you can from like, okay, I set another world record, on the treadmill.
Incredible.
Inside, but like those are the type of things that hopefully will get people fired up and outside and doing
I love it.
Doing their best.
I love it. Well, Mike, you are you gonna?
Oh wow, it's already 1 o'clock. Holy cow, we have blown through this.
We have blown through this. Just listen to you.
It's amazing.
You're gonna be in Austin in a couple weeks, correct?
I am for the running.
The running event. Yeah. Well, I actually may be out there
and leaving on Thursday.
Wonderful. I actually might be in there myself for a little bit, so
nice.
Hopefully we'll have a chance to connect a little bit more.
That's awesome.
Keep the conversation going.
All right,
so in terms of the Hoka shoes, just we want to mention that again, just because people can want to.
Yeah.
So if you want to sign up to win a free pair of Hoka shoes and a Go Mike Wardian hat. Click the link below. We're gonna do that drawing next week.
Yeah, we're gonna do it on Wednesday because Thursday is Thanksgiving. So if you are listening to the recording of this later, lucky day, you get to sign up as well.
That's right. So sign up for that shoe. And we'll do the drawing next week.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much for your time, man. It is, you know, we were talking about it before the show, and then we were on the show, and like, it just super enthralled to be like, you know, just on the sidelines as you watch you. You know, we saw you go by at mile 23 at the New York Marathon, and like looking at that and in the context of what you've done, like that's just like one weekend, and it's just amazing to watch. Yeah, thank you for being so inspiring and jumping on the show with us. Yeah.
Kelly says, I have to go to a meeting, but this was a really great one. Rachel says, love listening to him. Kelly says, this is an amazing story. I love how he thought he was going to win, no problem. Just people really appreciate it. So thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll find another time to get you on the show, but thanks for hopping on. We'll see you next time.
That'd be great, man. Thanks, guys. It was fun.
Cheers.
Bye.
Wonderful.
Bye, everyone.
All right, we're back.
So the next thing we have to do is do the drawing of
last week's
previous one last week, where we have a pair of Gooder sunglasses.
Oh my goodness,
2 pairs.
You know, I realized I didn't change the title on our.
My goodness,
bad mistake.
So we're giving our winner from last week, where we talked to Devin, 2 pairs of Rockin' Gooder shades. Doing the drawing right now. Let's see here. Let's see. Hold on.
Oh, we have one winner. Here's one. David Gould.
Yeah,
David Seattle, Washington.
Gould, congratulations.
Oh, and Tanae won.
And Tanae.
Fantastic. Tanae, I'm happy for you. You've been on here for a long time.
I know. Both won a pair of Gooder sunglasses from last week's entry. I will email you guys and get your shipping addresses so we can get that sent out to you.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be doing Wednesday next week.
I'll be doing a drawing on Wednesday. I might hop on Wednesday for a little bit, mini live show.
Otherwise,
have fun in South Africa.
Thank you very much.
This guy's going to be out a little bit, so you'll just have me.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. If you're in California, take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
And for all you guys who are going home, headed home for the holidays, good luck with your travel, and make sure you get out there and do a turkey trot. Yeah. I'm going to try to find one in Cape Town. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
And when Craig gets back, we have a super special guest.
Oh, that's right.
I'm very excited about it.
That's right. Yep.
We're not going to tell you.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's going to be good.
Okay. I was wondering if you were going to announce it. Guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Wait for the outro. Here it comes.
Marathon. I was reading training books and trying to figure out how to put together a training plan, and I saw the run experience and I signed up, and it was great. It's perfect. I liked that there were videos. So the demonstration videos were really helpful, and I had seen some before, but I liked that it was put into plans. And there were lots of plans. There's a 5K plan, there's a strength plan, there's a running efficiency plan, there's a half marathon, a marathon plan, and they seemed like they all went together. And so I liked that it felt like comprehensive. So I really liked that you could get everything all in one place. I think the major difference is this is more personalized. So when I have a question, I actually get my questions answered, and they're answered right away. And that's really helpful, because now as I'm starting to get more serious into my training, like I'm noticing little quirks with my body, like, okay, this left hip is tight. How do I work on that? Oh, here's mobility exercises to help with that. Oh, I'm not sure how many calories I should eat. Oh, talk to Elizabeth, so it feels more supportive by having, like, if I have a question about something, I can get my question answered. If you want to get stronger, you have to do strength. And running will only take you so far. When I did a half marathon this year, and I was at 2:07, so I think, and that was just with only running, not doing any other type of like specific running workouts. Like I didn't do any speed work, I just ran. I ran 4 or 5 days a week and just built up my mileage and did that. So now, like adding some strength training into it, adding some different types of workouts, I feel like I'll get there. It feels good to run fast. I just need to be able to like sustain it. My name is Denise Franton. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I actually want to do a sub 2 hour half marathon. I was reading training books and trying to figure out how to put together a training plan, and I saw the run experience and I signed up, and it was great. It's perfect. I liked that there were videos. So the demonstration videos were really helpful, and I had seen some before, but I liked that it was put into plans. And there were lots of plans. There's a 5K plan, there's a strength plan, there's a running efficiency plan, there's a half marathon, a marathon plan, and they seemed like they all went together. And so I liked that it felt like comprehensive. So I really liked that you could get everything all in one place. I think the major difference is this is more personalized.